The difference between MT and MX is like switching from a black and white to a full color HD experience. In December 2021, Swift announced the availability of its new inflow translation service, intending to support banks to be ready for the November 2022 start of the ISO 222 migration period. To be fair, ISO 222 has been knocking around for quite some time, with the first wide-scale adoption of the standard by SEPA, Single Euro Payment Area, in 2008. Until now, it has not reached a critical mass of usage across the globe for shared high and low value payments, but that's all about to change. Swift is decommissioning the network that supports the legacy MT format by November 2025, forcing banks worldwide to transition to ISO 222 en masse. In turn, this has driven two key market changes. One, Swift's decision to implement ISO 222 as the standard for cross-border payments. And two, many real-time gross settlement systems, or RTGS, are adopting this message standard for domestic clearing and settlement. All our problems come down to the difference in how the ISO 222-based MX standard and the legacy MT format convey information. To call it a chasm would be quite an understatement. There are three main reasons why this is causing such a commotion for banks. Firstly, the richness of the two standards is entirely different. MX can carry a great deal more data than MT, which has a limited set of fields and an extremely constrained number of characters. While this worked perfectly in the 70s, when computers were more constrained, it is now wholly obsolete. Secondly, MX is not a flat file, which introduces complexity for the legacy payment systems built for MT messages. With MX, there is a notion of hierarchy between the fields, making the processing of these files challenging for platforms that were never designed for this task. Last but not least, central banks globally are taking the opportunity of Swift transition to upgrade their domestic RTGS system to support ISO 222, but at different times and with a multitude of migration approaches, creating a highly complex roadmap for regional and global banks. Because the process is complicated, and because MT is so deeply ingrained across legacy payment systems, many banks plan to continue using their original MT-based internal payment platforms and leverage translation solutions to speak with the outside world. The difference between MT and MX is like switching from a black and white to a full color HD experience. One of the foremost issues is data truncation. MX can transmit so much more information than MT. So what happens when you send a longer message to a system used to dealing with shorter formats? Of course, you lose information and run a very high risk of losing critical data that your financial crime prevention system is obliged to scan. There is also a risk of double conversion. While ISO 222 is definitely helping with worldwide standardization, the standard can still be interpreted in multiple ways. In fact, we're already seeing varying rules emerging from different market infrastructures. This means that banks could end up translating from MX to MT using one set of rules and reconverting the other way around, using another set potentially, introducing mistakes like losing information or even misinterpreting data. You could also be missing data for required data enrichment. Many market infrastructures are planning to mandate extra information in the future. Please don't panic, not at first. but it is within their roadmap to start mandating additional information, such as purpose codes or legal entity identifiers. Collecting this extra information requires updating processes and systems, such as the customer information platform and potentially the payment engine too. Another issue is how competitive your product offerings will be if you don't upgrade your internal systems. As ISO 20022 becomes the new global standard, banks still using MT will be left behind. There is such a wide range of additional, rich data that banks can collect using the MX format, which can be used as a launchpad for developing new and innovative services, like better liquidity management or easier invoice reconciliation. First of all, don't panic. To make sure that you see the light at the end of the tunnel, here are top 3 pieces of advice. 1. List all your key payment scenarios and analyze them in detail. The devil is in the detail with the migration, and complicated scenarios like double translation can really jeopardize your readiness for go live. 2. If you plan to use the Swift translation libraries, make sure you don't rely on them solely, but plan to embed them into a broader solution that can deliver the format required by the market infrastructures where you operate. 3. Please think of the next step and have a clearly defined path towards a more strategic infrastructure that will allow you to benefit from this migration and the new data format it offers. Following this advice is not easy, particularly when there is a global scarcity of deep payment expertise. If you need any support, reach out to RedCompass Labs. Our experts are ready to help you to design and deliver a roadmap that will enable you to stay compliant and competitive in the face of these changes. And we have technology to help you with translation and testing challenges too. The clock is ticking fast, and the time to act is now.